Breaking boundaries. Susan LaFlèche Picot, the first Native American to become a doctor in America. Susan was born June 17, 1865, to the Omaha tribe in Nebraska. Her parents were Joseph LaFlèche and Mary Gale. Joseph became chief of the Omaha tribe when Susan was still a young girl, and she was the youngest of 4 girls. As such, Joseph encouraged her to learn English at a very young age, as well as other ways of the white men, so that she could advance in life. Her husband would become Henry Picot. Her motivation and goals for pursuing a higher education was that as a girl, Susan witnessed a Native American woman who died because a white man refused to treat her, a white doctor. So she received her education from Hampton Institute. She graduated class salutatorian, and she won the Demarest Prize, which is the person who receives the highest score in her college. She then attended medical school at the Women's Medical College of Pennsylvania, one of the few institutions that accepted women who were seeking a higher education. She was the first person to receive financial aid for a professional education in America. She was unable to pay for medical school and therefore reached out to an association in Connecticut, and they paid her entire way through medical school. She graduated as class valedictorian. She then moved back to her Omaha reservation and became the chief physician at a government boarding school. She would not only care for the students at the boarding school, but a lot of people would come to see her and seek help, and she would treat every single person. It was estimated that she treated about 1,200 patients in her life or more. Her primary fights were against tuberculosis, so seeking measurements to prevent it, like better hygiene in school, teaching families better hygiene. And she also fought against alcoholism a lot and land allotment for her Native American family. She fought politically for Omaha protection, especially regarding their land, because white men would take advantage of most Omaha did not receive an education, and so they would take advantage of their illiteracy, but they would also use alcohol to get them drunk, and then they would steal their land. So that was also why she was against alcohol. She would help anyone that came to her, even if it wasn't for medical aid. So a lot of people would come for her to write letters or for her to read them things, because most were illiterate, and she would take care of anyone. The impact she had was as the first Native American to become a doctor. It was also extremely significant because not many women in America were allowed to become doctors at that time either. So she was really a forefront runner for women as well as Native Americans in receiving higher education. She maintained her Omaha culture while also pursuing education in a white-dominated field, so she never turned her back on where she came from. But instead, she went back after receiving her degree, and she took care of her entire tribe as well as anyone else. She took care of her family first, even though she was working all the time. Her mother became gravely ill, and so she took time off from her medical career to take care of her mother until her mother passed away. She also became a mother to 2 boys, and after she had them, she went back to becoming a doctor, which is really surprising in that time because most women would just become stay-at-home moms, and she would actually take her sons with her to appointments, and she did not stop because people really needed her. She took her oath as a doctor very seriously because unlike others who might only treat whites or only treat a certain color, there's a lot of doctors who wouldn't treat Black people or wouldn't treat Native Americans. She would treat anyone that came to her. She fought until her death for the betterment of her people and the land at large. As I said previously, her tribe was being taken advantage of. They had a lot of land in Nebraska, and white men would come, get them drunk, and then steal their land. So she would write to Washington, and she even visited Washington and campaigned for the protection of their land. And yeah, she died in 1915, but she made a huge impact and paved the way for many Native Americans, as well as women, to become doctors and to help their country.